The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I am doing pretty good. How's everybody doing?
On tonight's episode, we have a very special guest. This guy is a damn good friend of mine. I've known him for like 30 years or something. I mean, it's been a long, long time. We used to play music together. We've been bros for a long time. He's the founder of Vapor Paranormal, and he is actually on the East Coast team for Tales from the Abyss. Andy Andrews. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. Thank you.
The reason I have Andy on tonight, other than just being a good friend of mine, is also because we just got back from St. Albans up on the other side of Roanoke in Radford, Virginia. And we had some pretty spectacular experiences there. So what I want to do is I'm going to throw over to Andy, and I'm going to let him tell the audience about all the stuff that happened there, and we'll get into that. So Andy, go ahead, brother.
Well, thanks, guys. What's up, old boy? How's it going? St. Albans is a special place. It was great to have James, man. It was great to have you come along. I mean, you and I have done a lot of investigating over the years and stuff, but this was kind of like the first we know we're going to run into something type of place. Definitely St. Albans has a special place with me. I've been there a good dozen times, maybe a few more than that. And it seems as if each time that I go, the familiarity with some of the spirits there or energies just gets stronger. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. St. Albans, I've been attacked there. I've also have had other spirits come in and actually protect us from some stuff. I had that happen one time. But this past Friday night, our good friend and also team member, Mandy, she is good friends with Marcel, who is the person who runs, her brother owns St. Albans, and she manages it. And she is a sweetheart. Give her a shout out for just who she is. And Marcel invited Mandy down for her birthday, and my birthday followed a couple days later. So got myself, James, my son Trey, and Mandy, and we headed down. And we get there, and James had never been there. So what we ended up doing was two of the volunteers there asked us if we wanted to take a tour. And we just kind of told them we wanted like the nickel tour. Pretty much St. Albans, James can tell you this. St. Albans is a maze. And I can tell you, I get a little better each time that I go in there, but I still can get lost pretty quick in that place. And that's not a place you want to get lost by yourself too quick. You know, I'm not scared of a whole lot, but then again, walking through a creepy place that you know absolutely is haunted is not the most fun time all the time, especially if you don't have someone there to, if things go south, to have a partner to help you out. But we get there, and like I said, they are giving us the nickel tour, and immediately, I'm going to say within probably the first 10 minutes, if even that, we started getting all kinds of stuff going on. Footsteps, just noises. I mean, yes, it's an old building, but these were noises that were not the wind. It wasn't anything, it was pretty right in your face that we had things going on around us. Some things were curious. And so we make our way through, some parts of it, and we end up in the area that they call the bird cage. And what the bird cage is, it's a outdoor rec. It was an outdoor rec area with shuffleboard, whatnot. about 2 stories up on top of the roof, and it's enclosed with fencing. It looks like a big bird cage. And obvious reasons they would have that up there so people wouldn't try to either escape. Some of them, were very mentally disturbed. So, they may try to jump, anything like that. Took a little bit of time out there, and then we turned around and come back in. And the first thing that happens, I'm probably maybe 10, 15 feet in front of James, and I passed the room, and James will tell you, we heard a cough. It was a male cough, or a very deep cough. I turned around to see if it was James or maybe my son coughing, and no. And James immediately says, "Did you hear that?" And we both did. That's what St. Albans does. They let you know they're there. We've had so many theories and debates over the years if they are just living, if it's a loop that they're continuing to do. But we left that area and made our way down to the isolation rooms. And they have 3 levels of isolation rooms. And they start out kind of like the first one is for people who are in there, and believe it or not, they would actually isolate. People would get brought there for just being a smart aleck to their spouse. Like if they were telling us, like if a wife didn't listen to her husband, it wasn't abnormal for them to be brought there and put in this isolation room. But then you would move up to the next level, and that's where they kept the ones that were not violent, but, to themselves or anything, but they may be a little bit of trouble. So that's the second part of it. The third part of it is literally where the doors are thicker, the windows are smaller, and that's where they put, the ones that were going to cause a lot of issues. That's where the rubber room was, and that's also where the morgue was. Now, the morgue there, from what I have been told, they didn't have, it was a temporary morgue. In other words, when somebody would pass, they would be brought to that area. They would be, I guess, put in clothing or whatnot. They wouldn't even be embalmed or anything there. And within a day, they would be loaded into whoever came to pick them up and taken wherever. But James and I were turning the corner, and off to our left was one of the isolation rooms that would have been one that they probably had some of the most mentally disturbed people in. And we very clearly heard a young lady whimpering, crying. And like I said, it happens so sudden, and anybody that's done any investigating, when you hear that, you get the rush of both startles you, freaks you out, but yet is awesome on the same feeling. And we left that area after hearing that, made our way through some of the other rooms, whatnot, some of the hallways, and we rounded a corner to make our way to the area that they called the Great Staircase or Stairwell, or the Grand Staircase, I'm sorry. It sounded like the possibility that maybe one of us kicked a rock or something like that, but it sounded metallic, and it sounded like it came from a left or right projection, like something was thrown. And we spent a couple minutes trying to figure it out. Couldn't find anything, couldn't bunk. I mean, we're inside a carpeted area, so the possibility of something being on the floor and kicked is always there, but we couldn't find it. So that was pretty neat. Footsteps, we were hearing walking and stuff like that. They also have a claim of the whistler there, and you do a whistle, and if you wait, try to get as silent as you can and listen, you definitely a lot of times get a whistle back. And we had this happen to us several times. But what was kind of weird is we made it to the staircase, and a beautiful staircase. We start making our way up the staircase after standing there for a couple minutes. And as we're going up, we have the guide in front of us, and then we had a guide that was following up in the rear. And she yells real quick, "Everybody stop," the one that was in the back. And they have a haunted house there in October, but they also have tarps that are hung up in certain areas. And what that's for is to protect, anybody that's investigating. We all know that we should not go in behind tarps, because most likely there's some kind of danger such as, hole in the floor, something like that. And she says something rubbed up against the tarp. I heard the same thing, but I thought she was doing it herself. And she said, I seen something white walk by the back of the tarp. So I'm already at the top of the steps. Mandy's at the top of the steps. The other guide that was leading us, she's up there. So James and my son go back down. I'm not sure how far down they went, but my son has been investigating. He's just turned 18, and he's been investigating with me probably since he was about 13, or he's been around it, his whole life. But I actually started taking him into some of the places that I knew were not so bad or have the potential of being so. And so he's been around it. He's had a lot of things happen. Actually, St. Albans, the last time he was there, him and another gentleman were in a room filming, and the gentleman's backpack slid across the floor on its own. And, I still to this day, he talks about that. But now I think he has a different story, because him and James actually watched a full body apparition walk across the floor in front of them. And my son described it as, he said it was a white, creamy color with a yellow tinge to it that was glowing. And he said it looked like it glided and didn't, wasn't seeing steps. At that point in time, I could tell by the look on his face that he had his first experience, and was definitely a one of a kind experience for him. And he had that startled look, but he had that was awesome look on his face at the same time. So definitely proud Papa at that point in time. We stood up there for a couple minutes. I think we went down the hallway and we came back. And we came back down to the end of the stairwell. And at the bottom of the steps, if you turn right and you go in behind it, I guess this is what I was told, was a reception area, but they also had a television there where some of the better patients could actually come out and sit and watch TV and whatnot. Across that room is where they have another stairwell. And, if you're like in a hotel and you have the opportunity to either take the elevator, or you have that stairwell that's separate to the side of the building, but still enclosed. That's what this stairwell is. It kind of takes you, to 3 or 4 different floors. And there's a red exit sign that glows. James was the first one to point out that there was something standing there. And at this point in time, he's showing Mandy this and trying to show the guide this. And I'm hearing somebody walking down the steps beside me. So I'm not paying much attention to what they're doing. And I hear Mandy gasp, because then she actually saw it. And so then I'm intrigued by trying to figure out what they're looking at. And I go off to the side and I'm looking as well. And I could absolutely see that there was some kind of an entity there. And what's really interesting about this part is James and Mandy saw what they described as a woman dancing. And then it turned into, like, I guess a tall figure, like grew. I actually saw that. I seen it grow. I mean, if that makes sense. But Trevor and I caught what looked like something peeking its head around the corner. So this has been a debate with all of us on the team, just talking, trying to figure out, were we seeing 2 different things? Or did this apparition or entity show itself differently at the same time to a group of people? And that's a really interesting subject that I think I want to further indulge in and try to research that. I'm a true believer that an entity is going to show itself to the individual the way it wants to. It could be for a message that it's trying to get out, or multiple reasons. And that's a theory and an opinion of mine. So anyhow, as this is happening, we're asking it to come forward, and it would move back. I tried to kind of sneak a little bit up towards it, and heard footsteps off to my right that kind of spooked me a little bit. So I kind of backed my way back up to the group, and I had my back to the wall. And the only way I can describe it is if, like, somebody walks up and just puts their hand on your shoulder, not like slapping you, but kind of like putting it on there and like squeezing for a second. And this happened to me. I have been touched before, but not like that. And from the whole description that James can probably tell you in a minute, my son said it looked like I was ready to throw down because I jumped and turned around and I was in fight mode. And, I don't know what I would have done because there was nothing there. But I definitely had that happen. So from that point, we are all amped up. We decide to leave and go out. And I can tell you that even though it was somewhat warm outside, it's about a 20-degree difference inside. So it was pretty cold. And we decided to go take a break, get some coffee, do what we do. And I'd say an hour passed by, maybe not even that long. James and I decided to make our way down to the alcohol ward. The alcohol ward is where they would bring people into, obviously, to dry out. Some of them didn't make it because they would have, that bad of a time coming off of alcohol. And a pretty cool story that goes behind that is, if anybody knows their history on Johnny Cash, there was a couple years that Johnny Cash on tour went to jail about every single city that he played in. And he had played, and I'm guessing, I don't know, so this is a guess, but around St. Albans, it would have had to have been probably like Roanoke, maybe Richmond, Charlottesville, something like that he was playing at. But either way, he got arrested for a drunken disorderly. And the punishment was going to be they were going to put him in St. Albans to dry out. Now, unfortunately, that didn't happen. So that would give them, something to really brag about. But the thing is, it seems as if when you play some music by Johnny Cash down there, that it ruffles some feathers up. But anyhow, we make our way down. It's just James and myself. And we put up a REM pod. James is filming. And I explained to him there's 2 rooms in there that are off of the main room. And every single time that I have been in there, we have watched shadow figures walk, look at us. We've had about every single piece of equipment that's known to the paranormal community I've used in that room or somebody has. And they always are pretty open to communicate. So it kind of waited a little bit, and within, I would say, maybe 10 minutes, we got a REM pod hit. Like it was letting us know that it was there. And there's no electric down in this place. So there was nothing there to interfere with that. At that point, Mandy catches back up to us, and she is one side of the room. James and I are kind of set beside each other. And we were looking to a room in front of us. And a lot of the windows at St. Albans are boarded up because they've had issues with people breaking in, wanting to, I guess, get in a haunted house. So they've boarded up a lot of the windows. Then plus also being such an old building, some of the windows are no longer there. So that's part of why, a lot of teams right now are pulling together to do some fundraisers there. And just for simple things like that. But some of the places they didn't get the board fully up onto the window, or there's a crack in the board. But anyway, there's a little bit of light coming through, and it was just enough for James and I to watch the shadow figure moving itself back and forth. It looked like the size of a regular man. Don't know, I can't give you a height, but a regular man, somewhere between, probably 5'8" and 6 foot tall. But what was really weird is beside this man, it looked like he had his hand on top of the head of some kind of entity that looked like a smaller kid, maybe a smaller midget, maybe. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. But you could see down about as far as the waistline, and then from that point, it looked like it just flowed, like there was no legs or anything. So we tried to communicate with that. It was more visual communication at that point in time. And then we started asking questions, and this thing started to answer us very intelligently. And James, I think, has, he can tell you a little bit about putting up. I know that he has a video that he posted on YouTube and stuff showing this interaction that we had. And myself knowing what that place, that area, the alcohol ward, what we have ran into there before, I knew that the possibility of running into something, and I know a lot of people don't like this word, but demonic or something that malevolent, something that just wants to hurt you. And James and I, the friendship that we have, as long as we've been around each other and playing music, you kind of feed off of one another. So, like when you're playing music and you're improvising or something like that, you get to the point that you've played with somebody so long that you know that this is where they're going to go with it. And this is, you feel each other. And James and I are really good on doing that when we're investigating. And so we went back and forth asking questions, specifically trying to pull out the information of what we were dealing with. And sure enough, after we, talked a little bit about our faith and asked the questions like, do you want to hurt us? Do you want to attack us or attach? And this thing would just keep nailing the REM pod. But what was funny is we said, that you can't attach to us because we are covered. And it acknowledged that, yes, it knew this. And then the end of the evening came with us asking if it wanted us to go. And it said yes. And what didn't say it, it gave us that on the REM pod, that communication. And so, at that point, you respect. And that's what it's all about, is respecting these spirits anyway. And we're in their home. And so we decided to call it night. Mandy went back on Saturday night, and her and Dusty, another one of our team members, did a Phasma box session in multiple places and was very successful. And from my understanding, she also saw the same entity that we had seen at the staircase the next night as well. So, if you have an opportunity to go to St. Albans, it never disappoints. The wonderful staff there, they're great. Their knowledge is beyond, any other. And it was a great time. So, James, what do you think about it? What's your take on Albans?
For me, the greatest part of the alcohol room was one that we caught it on camera. In the video, you can plainly see the smaller entity, the mist moving around and everything. It's spectacular. But the fact that we were able to lead this entity through these questions and it responded each time was really, really cool. And I'll elaborate a little bit on how we kind of got to the bottom of what it was. Andy already had that feeling that that's what it was. And he didn't even have to tell me. Because, like he said, we've been around each other for so long that I know what he's thinking before he's thinking it. And the same way with me. He knows me that well. So I already knew that he was a little bit uneasy, and he had that feeling that this thing wasn't a good thing. And so as I'm questioning it, I'm taking it down the road. I'm asking if it is there because it enjoys suffering of people, if it feeds off of the suffering of the people that were there, if it enjoys that kind of thing. I asked if it was a shadow person, because to us, that's kind of what it appeared as. And it said that it wasn't, basically. And then I asked if it was what we would call demonic, and it acknowledged, yes, it was. And so that was our confirmation of the entity actually admitting itself that that's what it was. And then, funny thing is, Andy was talking about how we were covered, and it was acknowledging that it couldn't hurt us and it couldn't attach to us because we were covered by the blood of Christ. We had the Holy Spirit sealed inside of us. And I quoted a little bit from the Bible and said that every knee shall bow. I said, you realize that, right? And it acknowledged that, yes, that is true, that it did know that it had to bow to Christ. But that question really pissed it off. And it started hitting the REM pot over and over and over again. And at that point, that's when the conversation, I guess you could say, turned a little bit more, I don't want to say violent, but in that realm of violence where it was acknowledging that, yes, it absolutely wanted to hurt us and it would love to hurt us. And then Andy did something that was so brilliant at the end of this that I would have honestly never even thought to do. He asked it if it was getting to the point that it might try to do something to us, even though it knew it couldn't because it wouldn't be able to help itself, which was brilliant. And I think a lot of that comes from Andy has gifts on the psychic spectrum. It's not like a full-blown psychic thing where he sees pictures and hears voices, but he gets these feelings, these gut feelings about people, about entities, about what their intentions are and what they're thinking, and he's rarely wrong. He's been wrong sometimes, but it's very rare. So he kind of was able to just sense what this thing was feeling and how it was getting amped up and wanting to take a shot at us. And so he kind of led us into that, asking if it wanted us to leave scenario, which was really, really cool because I don't have that gift. So I didn't realize at that point, I knew it was pissed off, but I didn't realize that the entity was getting to the point where it was getting ready to try to take a shot at us. And he was able to pick that up, which was really cool. One thing I'll say really quickly about the Grand Staircase entity, that was pretty spectacular because I walked around the corner and I saw a woman in what looked to be a white gown. I don't know if it was a hospital gown from being in the place as a resident at one time or if it was like a ball gown. I couldn't tell, but it was a white flowing gown. And she looked to be dancing around. And it was absolutely spectacular to watch. And we kept asking her to come closer, and she would come closer, and then I would walk closer, and then she would back up. And then right after Andy got grabbed, all of a sudden this thing went from being a woman that was around normal height. It shot up all the way to the ceiling. Now, I don't know how high the ceiling is. I would guesstimate 15, 20 feet probably, but it went all the way up to the ceiling almost. And what I saw was the head of this thing go from being the head of a female feature to being this monstrous looking form. And it was pretty freaky. Now at that point, I don't know if it was out of instinct or what, but I started heading towards that entity. I didn't want to fight it or anything. It wasn't one of those macho things. I wanted to get over to this pole where it was appearing, and I wanted to see what the hell was going on. Because in my mind, before that happened, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go over there in a minute and I'm going to look and see if there's anything waving around back there, like maybe a curtain or something like that that could explain what we're seeing. That maybe it's not an entity, it's not an apparition, that we're just seeing something waving. And I wanted to check and make sure. And so that was my intention. But then once it grabbed Andy, that got me a little bit amped up too, because it's like my buddy's being attacked, you know? So I wanted to go and see what the hell it was. And as I started moving towards it, it disappeared, which was pretty amazing. And one more thing I'll say really quickly, we went, while Andy was sitting in a hallway doing an EVP session and he was on the Facebook Live, me and Trey and Mandy walked over to the office of the doctor who used to work there. And while we were in that office, Trey actually started not feeling so good. So we decided to leave the office and we went back over by Andy, and he said he was getting this feeling of something pressing on his stomach real hard, and he was just not feeling well at all. So it lessened a little bit as we got away from the office, but he didn't really get all that much better. So I decided that we were going to go ahead and pull him out and get him back to the main area so he could take a break. So that's what we did. And I don't think that he went back in after that. I think he stayed in that main area the rest of the night. But yeah, that thing that I saw with Trey was pretty damn cool. And I'm really stoked that his first apparition he saw was with me. Because I've known that kid since he was a little kid. He used to come over to my house and eat cantaloupe. I'd cut up cantaloupe for him, and he called it lope-de-lope. And it was the cutest damn thing. And I just love that guy to death. And the idea that his first apparition that he saw was with me, it makes me very, very happy. So I'm going to throw over to Old Boy now so he can ask some questions to Andy and whatever he would like to talk about. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. And thank you, Andy, for being on the show. I appreciate it. Is that the only thing that happened, or have you had other things happen when you've gone there before? Because I know this isn't the first time you've been there, Andy. Have you ever had any other issues there, or is this the first real things you ever had happen?
Well, that's a good question because I actually got attacked there. So they had a women's section that is often one of the farther wings upstairs. They call it the attic area. Was up there at the time. Mandy was actually with me that time. We had another friend of ours with us, and we were having a three-day investigation. In other words, we went in on Friday night, came out on Sunday night or Sunday afternoon. They have a community center, is what they call it, but it's a huge room that is a new addition, and we just throw our air mattresses down there, and that's where we would all sleep at. And all the people that came to that from all over were seasoned investigators. And, they brought a few friends that were, probably there for their first time. They may have been to a couple other places. But there's a guy, Eric from Epic Paranormal, who, whenever he goes anywhere, he dresses in costume and role, for where he's at. So he was walking around in a full-fledged doctor meets surgeon outfit. I believe he even had needles. I could be wrong on that, but I know he had like a stethoscope and stuff like that. Anyhow, I'll get to why that's important in a second. But we were up in this room. You kind of walk into it, and it's like a sitting room, and then it has multiple bedrooms that leap off of that. And then there's a bathroom at the back end of that has unfortunately had a few suicides happen in there, and they call it the suicide bathroom. Anyhow, one of the stories is that there was a resident there, and some of the residents would be able to go home on the weekends. Not sure. And I am getting this. I know that this happened, but some of the story is, could be different or second, coming down through second hands here. But I do know that the bulk of the story is that she ended up pregnant. One of the patients did. Not sure if it was done by one of the orderlies there or if it was when she was on one of these weekend, visits at home. Regardless, she has a miscarriage. And they were keeping it quiet that she was pregnant, which kind of tells me that there's a good possibility it was an orderly. So the story goes that she has a miscarriage and takes this, I guess, fetus, whatever it was. I don't know what stage that it was in when she miscarried, but she put it in a jar and kept it in a cubby hole that's in that room. And we have found the cubby hole and stuff like that. And she would get it out at night and like talk to it and rock it and everything else. And from my understanding, this went on for about a week until one of the other ladies finally turned her in. They take the body or whatever it was and disposed of it properly. Well, this like put her into, a really bad state of mind. And she was probably already mental anyway, because she was in there. And that's where one of the suicides happened, was in the bathroom. And they said because of that. But also the story goes that she didn't like needles, that they had to hold her down, stuff like that. Well, I'm sitting on the floor in this place, and I have Mandy to one side of me and this other friend of ours to the other side. And I am making comments about pregnancy and stuff. Nothing nasty or smart, just talking about it. And Eric walks in from Epic Paranormal, like I said, in full, costume. And pretty much he just says, "Hey, how's things going? Anything going on?" And I said something about, "Hey, the doctor's here." Well, he makes his way into the room that the suicide bathroom is off of. As soon as he walked through that threshold, the next thing I know is I am on my knees, and it feels like somebody is completely cutting my guts out of me. Pain that I'd never had. I was worried that maybe I had appendicitis going on. I didn't know what was going on. And eventually what ends up happening is they helped me out of the room. And once I went through the threshold of that room and started down the steps, as I got further away, the pain went away. and went outside and got sick. And that seemed to be the end of everything. Well, they do have security cameras throughout some of the rooms, and that happens to be one of the rooms. And my son, Trey, he was actually going to get us water, and he's walking by the room that they have these cameras, and, you know, there's a guy in there that's watching them, Scott. And he says, "Hey, man, your dad just got attacked or something. Something's going on." And Trey makes his way back up, meets us as I'm coming down. And once I got myself together, I go in and we watch, rewind and watch. And you literally can see, and I have this video still. As soon as Eric kind of makes his way through that threshold, we see a ball of energy come out of the wall, I guess is the easiest way to say it, and right into me. And that was a scary feeling because it was something that I couldn't fight. It was something that I couldn't get rid of at that point in time. But I have seen so much stuff in that place. I have a sweetheart for a friend, Kelly Miller, that has a very special gift, and shout out to her. Her and I were in the room around the corner from that and watched what looked like to us a spinning little mini tornado of energy. And I'd never seen anything like that before. But I also know there was a gentleman that was in the alcohol ward that was lifted all the way up to the point that all his tippy toes was left touching the ground. And James, everybody knows James is a big guy, and this gentleman's probably not far from James's size. So that took something really powerful to lift him up like that. But I've been down into the bowling. They have a bowling alley underneath the place. I've had things happen in there. I've had doors slam on me in there. The place is just active. It lets you know that, yes, we're here. Every time I go, something happens unique. And that's why I don't want to say love going to the place, because you don't want an obsession with places like that. But I really enjoy it.
Well, it sounds like I could tell you this: that guy might have had something on him too. It could have attracted whatever thinking from the past, and it saw him, and it could have came out of the wall too. But that's really crazy, because that sounds like something attached into you and made you sick, and whatever it was, and whatever happened to that entity or whatever, it got into you. That's why you had the stomach ache, and then you got out of there and you got sick and you felt better, because that's what it sounds like to me. But you guys just stayed there the other night. I think, was it one night, right? And did you guys actually sleep, or did you guys ever hear anything, or when you actually went to sleep? Because that's what James said, you guys had sleeping bags and stuff. Did you guys try to sleep and you guys kept hearing something all night, or how that end up going?
Well, like I said, they have the community room, and that's kind of the first part of that you come up on when you're coming up the hill towards it. And then off the community room is a couple bathrooms, and that's where the administration, where Marcel's office is, gifts, T-shirts and stuff like that, and everything that they got there. And then that's where they also have the cameras and stuff. But literally right after you pass the camera room, you just open up this door, there's a ramp, and you're inside the place. Because it was so cold, the community room was off limits. It wasn't off limits. It would have just been too damn cold to sleep in there. So we threw some air mattresses down, and we slept right in there where the office and stuff like that is. But the door was probably 10 yards away from me, something like that. And James said he heard it too. He was sleeping kind of, opposite of us, and we only slept. I know I looked at the clock at 5:30 and laid down, and I know him and I were back up outside close to 8 o'clock. So we didn't get much sleep. But I did get up to use the restroom one time within that time limit, and the door to that place, it was like somebody was on the other side shaking it. And I actually made the comment, well, if you want to come in, come on in. But from my understanding, they have done some things with that area to kind of keep them maybe not from coming in there. And I don't know if that's a rumor. I've never really asked Marcel, but I have heard that, you know, that's kind of like a safe zone, if that makes sense. So I don't know if something was on the other side. There's no way that, I mean, every old place probably has a crack or something that some wind can get through, but this was not like wind blowing. This was like somebody grabbing the doorknob and just, you know, shaking it. And as soon as I said something, like I made the comment, well, if you want to come in, come on in. And it stopped. And so I took that as, you know, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Wanted to try to get, you know, as much sleep as I possibly could. And I don't know if James had anything happen while he was asleep or not, or awake, but I know he was still awake when I went to sleep, and he was awake when I woke up. So I don't know how much sleep he got.
Yeah, I was, after you and Trey laid down, I had like a Pop-Tart, I think, or something, and then I was sitting there, and I decided I needed to try to get some sleep too. But I heard multiple times while you guys were sleeping, it sounded like somebody was trying to break through that door to get in to where we were. And at one point, I actually got up and kind of walked over there because I wanted to make sure that it was coming from that area where you walk through to get into the place. I wanted to make sure that was it, and it wasn't somebody trying to get in from the outside, like the public trying to get in from the outside. Because there's a door right past that door to the left that we could go out to smoke and everything. And I wanted to make sure it wasn't that door someone was trying to get in, but it wasn't. It was actually the door that we actually entered the old sanatorium in. So I walked over there by that door and listened, and it was shaking like that. And as soon as I put my hand to the door, it stopped. So I went and laid back down. And I only slept for like maybe half an hour because I laid down and got real comfortable. And I was warm because I had on a t-shirt and a hoodie and my big hunting jacket. And then I had this cover over top of me. So I was like in the zone, dude. I was perfect. I was nice and warm. I was comfortable. And I'm laying there, and I had just fallen asleep. And then I don't know what woke me up, but something woke me up. And then I had that feeling like I had to pee. And I wanted to ignore it because I was so comfortable and so warm, I did not want to get up. But then I started having this weird thought in my head that, what if I don't get up and go to the bathroom and I just ignore it, and then I'll just go when I get up? But then what if I dream that I'm standing in the bathroom and I'm actually urinating, and then I'm not actually in the bathroom, but I'm laying here, and then I do that in front of everybody? You know what I mean? So I decided I was going to go ahead and get up and go to the bathroom so I didn't embarrass myself. And once I got up and went to the bathroom, I looked at the clock, and it was like 7:30. So I thought, what the hell, I'll just stay up. So I went outside for a while, and then Andy showed up like, I don't know, 5 minutes later after I walked outside. Yeah, but it was a pretty crazy night, man.
Sounds like I'm gonna have to go with you guys eventually. Check it out myself. I'm pretty crazy, so I'll probably go check out some stuff. I'll probably get us in trouble. Other than that, it sounds like I'm gonna have to check out these videos. I already did some of it because I haven't had time because of it. I've seen some of the video they put out. It's really interesting, guys. Check it out. And I'm gonna have to go here because you guys were telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, God, I want to check this out because I'm in so much into this stuff. But it sounds like something was trying to get your attention at that door. But whatever they have, it's like you said, it must be a safe zone, or they've had somebody bless it because they couldn't get in. So, but there was definitely something there that knows that you guys were there and was trying to make sure you didn't sleep, because it sounds like you guys didn't have too much sleep. So it got some of its way. It got your attention. And that's what it says. It made you start thinking stuff and made you start hearing noises. And you did hear noises, wasn't you? And it was like acting like something was trying to come in. So it just wanted to keep you up. So that's exactly what it did too. So, I mean, you guys couldn't sleep that well. I mean, it's kind of hard if you're at somewhere and you guys were doing all this evidence till like 4 a.m. anyway. It's kind of hard when you fall asleep, because what happens is you're either going to pass out till like 12 in the afternoon, or you're going to get up in an hour, and that's what usually happens. And James doesn't sleep good anyway. I don't know about Andy, but I've known James for about 7-8 years, and we've been up. Like right now, it's like 11 o'clock over there. He usually doesn't go to bed till 2. Lately, he's been going to sleep a little late, earlier now, but before he only slept 3 or 4 hours and he gets up. So just how he is. He's used to it. I can't function other than 6, 7 hours. I used to when I was younger. I could stay up all night, 2 or 3 days, and then I would crash out for 16 hours. It was just weird. I just didn't sleep well as a kid, but it sounds like something I have to go and check it out for myself eventually. Sounds like you guys had a good time. It just sounds like you have a lot of stuff there, a lot of sorrow, a lot of evil entities there, and just a lot of sadness over there. That's what I feel. I can feel it too from what you guys were telling me. I have this gift myself. I can feel the dread, and there were some bad things that's happened at these places, and it just seems like that's what's there. It's just looming there. And you have other things there, like you said, there's stuff, but it's just been like a lot of bad things happened there. So you're going to have a lot of dread and a lot of sadness too on top of that. Just like if you guys ever come down to Hollywood, like, just so I know, I go to a place in Hollywood. I'm into the goth lifestyle. So there's a goth club, and you could just feel the sadness in Hollywood. There's just a lot of lost souls there, and you see a lot of crazy people running around, and you could tell they probably came here to be something, because a lot of people think they're going to be either stars or singers or famous, and it doesn't happen like that. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They end up doing a lot of drugs, and they live on the street, or they get in bad situations, and you can just feel the sadness. And there's a lot of sadness at these places you guys are going to. So other than that, I'm glad you guys had a good time. I'm glad you guys didn't get hurt. That's one good thing. And none of you guys really got attacked this time. So we've had other issues in the past, that people being attacked and getting sick, and and that's a good thing. Nothing bad happened to any of you guys, and you guys didn't have any scrapes and scratch. I mean, you've had things talking to you and saying stuff, and that, but other than you guys didn't get attacked, or you guys didn't get lost, or something bad happened to you guys, something pushed you over, a ramp or something, or you tripped on something, you guys were safe all together. You didn't break any legs or bones, and that's good to hear. Sad you guys couldn't get no sleep, but I get it. Somewhere like that has a lot of energy and a lot of negativity. So it was probably pissed off that you guys were there anyway, because like you guys said, because of your belief, there was something there just didn't want you there, and it was trying to keep you up all night. And it did that job for you guys. If you don't think about it, a lot of people don't realize it doesn't have to possess you and mess with you. It could do it in other ways, and that's what it did. So, but it sounds like you guys had a good time, and I'm gonna have to go with you guys one day. Hopefully we can, guys. There's a lot of stuff coming down in the way, and one day you'll probably see it. So, but other than that, that's all I got to say, brother.
What I'm wondering is, and this is what I wondered at the time too, when I first started hearing that door being shook, I felt like it was that same entity from the alcohol room, that it was coming to try to get our attention again. I don't know if it wanted to get to us to hurt us, or if it was just simply trying to lure us back in. That's the feeling that I had at the time. I kind of discounted it at the time because I was still kind of amped up from that encounter. So I thought, I'm probably just reading too much into it. Who knows what it is, But that's the feeling I had at the time, was that I thought it might be that thing. So what I want to do is ask Andy real quickly. We have about 9 minutes left of the show. So after Andy gives his answer, we'll go ahead and have him do his plugs and all that kind of stuff that he wants to do. But really quickly, Andy, do you think that could be a possibility, that it might have been that same entity that we were dealing with in the alcohol room that was either trying to get our attention to lure us back in, or literally trying to get to us while we were sleeping?
Well, you know what? We left something out, man. Do you remember when we were pulling up the drive to get into the place?
Oh yeah, in the window.
In the window, there was something standing in the window that all of us in the car saw. And we actually drove even closer to make sure it wasn't a reflection, because what it was is we were seeing the street light coming through the back of the building through the window, and we were at the front of the building, and it was definitely a human figure there. And I kind of looked at James and said, "Welcome to St. Albans." But in my opinion on what was at the door, I didn't give it much thought at that point in time that it was going on. But I can tell you, I do know this, and I can definitely accept that what you're saying is a good possibility. And I would think more of it probably trying to lure us back in. But also St. Albans does have a little boy that runs around. And I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. I know that Mandy and myself both have watched this child entity stick its head around the corner. It's played peekaboo with us. Mary Jo Chudley from Penn Paranormal, she had a bunch of equipment one time that we set up, and we played nursery rhymes and stuff like that. And the child is known to like to play games and stuff. So there could be a possibility that it was him. And I can't remember if it was John or Michael or David, something like that, like a common male, boy name. But if it was something, yeah, I got the same weird feeling like you're saying. Like, I didn't get the feeling like it was anything being playful. It felt like it was something like either trying to keep us awake or trying to get us to come back in. And yeah, I agree with that completely. Guys, we call ourselves Vapor, which is VAPOR, and that stands for the Valley Agency of Paranormal Research. We're based out of the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. Some of us from Winchester, some of us from Strasburg. Team members is the one and only James Hershey. He is on there. Myself, Andy Andrews. We have Mandy Miller. We have Erica Boyer. And we have Dusty Taylor. And we also have my son, Trey Andrews. And we do have other people behind the scenes that do help us out. And, we do residential cases. And obviously, that we go to places such as the things that you may see on television, the ones that are famously known. We take a lot of pride in helping people. I started this group. I founded this team about 15 years ago, and then I joined another team, Carl Lawhead, CNC Paranormal. Him and I actually met when we were very young and both had an interest in the paranormal because we both had things happen to us. And so we would go to these haunted houses, supposedly, and just run around and do stuff that kids do. But we were always interested in paranormal stuff. And, then I got involved with the church and found that there was some other things on that end of the spectrum. And so I felt that I was really called to help people. And that's what it's about, or help spirits. I'm not saying that anyone or myself can cross over people, but you can definitely help them understand. I believe that you can. But like I said, shout out, to Penn Paranormal, which is Mary Jo Chudley and her husband, Bill. We do a lot with them. And like I said, my sweet good friend, the Maven Media, Kelly Miller, do a whole bunch with her, and look forward to doing even more on that end of the thing with, events and stuff coming up. But we just have we're blessed with so many people. Like, I do Gettysburg a lot. Pam and Steve Barry. They have the Hoover House in Gettysburg. If you're ever up that way, definitely in Waynesboro, PA, outside of Gettysburg, stay at their place. The Gettysburg Bash this year is at the end of August. I would say if you're in the area or can make it, a lot of great speakers, things like that. And right now, James and I, we're part of the possibility of an event at St. Albans on March 26th. We're still working on that. And I'm sure once we get everything clarified and we know that it's going to go down, I'm sure that James then will announce that on the show here. Guys, it's a blessing to know both of you. I consider both of you good friends. And I think it's really neat what we're trying to do here with the Tales of the Abyss. We have James Ash Old Boys team out in California way, and then we have our team here in Virginia. And I do believe that you're going to hear more out of us before it's over and done with. And, that's about it, guys. I mean, it's just, I love the paranormal. Researched and studied I was just figuring it out the other day. It's been 37 years almost. And this is a field that it just continuously evolves. What else can you say about it? I mean, it's something that you learn something new every day. And it's all about respect, and it's all about respecting the places we go, the history. Guys, I look forward to working with you as much as possible. And, I'm really blessed to have the team that I have. And, we look forward to really making a difference in people's lives and helping them when they have these hauntings and stuff, but also doing the research by going to the places that we're going to now. And that's about it. And a big thank you to you two for having me on.
Thank you, brother, and I'm glad to have you on here too, brother. So everybody knows Tells the Abyss is all we're pretty much affiliated with everyone. So now you guys do know. But I want to thank you on Parax Radio for everybody listening to us on Sundays and Tuesdays for the Best of show. If you guys want to listen to anything else on Staring the Abyss, go to James Hersey's YouTube page. You can listen to all the new and old shows. If you guys want merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this, man. I did. It's cool to have people on here sometimes, and especially when it's in our own groups. Thank you, Andy, for coming on. I appreciated it. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster lovers, and demon hunters, I love you, and blessed be it. Have a great night.
Yeah, I want to thank Andy for coming on. It was a blast. We'll definitely have you back whenever you want to come on, basically. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're really up against it on time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now, and we will catch you on the next one. Until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.